The phone buzzes in my hand, my mother's name flashing across the screen. I hesitate before answering, swallowing the sudden wave of apprehension curling in my stomach. It's ridiculous. It's just a phone call. It's just Thanksgiving. I swipe to accept the call. "Hi, Mom," I say, forcing warmth into my voice. "Naomi, sweetheart." Her voice is high and sweet, the practiced cheeriness that always precedes something unpleasant. "How are the kids?" The kids. Not Ava and Theo, just the kids, as if they're afterthoughts in her life. I push the thought aside. "They're good," I say carefully. "Excited for the holidays." "Oh, wonderful. Speaking of the holidays, we're having Thanksgiving dinner, of course. Just a small one this year. Matthew and his family will be there." I wait for her to continue. I wait for my invitation. But there's a beat of silence too long to be natural. "Just Matthew's family?" I ask. "Well," she says lightly, "you can come, of course, but it's just going to be a little quieter this year." A pause. "Just Matthew's kids." The words feel like a slap to the face. I grip the phone tighter. "So you're saying Ava and Theo aren't invited?" My mother makes a soft clucking noise, the kind she used when I was a child to dismiss my feelings as silly. "Oh, Naomi, it's just easier this way. You know how energetic your kids are. They're sweet, of course, but—" I don't hear the rest. My ears are ringing. They aren't even pretending anymore. It's not accidental favoritism. It's not a misunderstanding. It's deliberate, calculated, cold. For years I have smiled through it. I have made excuses for them. I have let them treat my children as less than. Not this time. A strange calm settles over me, smoothing out the sharp edges of my anger. When I speak, my voice is quiet but unshakable. "If my kids aren't welcome," I say, "then neither am I." A pause, a shift in my mother's tone. She sighs, the exasperated, performative sigh of a mother indulging a difficult child. "Naomi, don't be dramatic, honey. It's just one dinner. Just one dinner. Just one slight. Just one more way to tell me Matthew matters more than you. Your children don't count. I can feel my heartbeat in my fingertips. My body trembles, not with sadness, not with grief, but with clarity. I lift the phone away from my ear and end the call. The screen goes dark. The silence is deafening. For the first time, I feel free, and yet my hands won't stop shaking. Thanksgiving comes and goes without a single text from my family. No passive-aggressive messages from my mother, no last-minute attempts at guilt, no fake invitations extended out of obligation. Just silence. And somehow that's worse, because the silence gives my mind room to wander, backward. It starts small. I'm loading dishes into the sink when a memory sneaks in. I see 2 birthday cakes. One is a towering masterpiece, 3 layers, perfect white frosting, glossy strawberries placed with precision. It's Matthew's. The other is mine, a store-bought cake in a plastic container, the kind you grab on the way home from work. The candle is already bent. The icing is smeared on the lid. I remember looking at it when I was 6, my tiny hands gripping the edge of the table and feeling so stupid for expecting anything more. I move to wipe down the counter, but my mind keeps pulling me under. Another memory. I was pregnant with Ava, glowing, excited, terrified. Mom was there, her face unreadable. I told myself she was just processing the news, that it would take her time to become a grandmother. She placed a hand on my stomach and said, "You'll understand when you have kids of your own." I thought she meant that I would understand the depth of a mother's love. What she really meant was, "You will understand why I favor Matthew." Because when Matthew's wife announced her pregnancy, my mother cried. She held Matthew's hand and sobbed with joy. When Ava was born, she texted me 3 days later. No call, no visit, no excitement, just a cold, obligatory text. "Congratulations, hope she's healthy." Like she was a stranger. I grip the counter now, blinking back the burn in my eyes. I don't want to keep doing this, replaying the evidence, listing the proof. I know the truth. I've always known it. But it's hard to break a habit you've spent a lifetime perfecting. Ethan finds me like that, standing too still, staring at nothing. He doesn't ask what's wrong. He already knows. He sighs, stepping closer, his voice soft but firm. "You are not that little girl anymore, Naomi." My throat tightens. "They don't own you," he continues, his hands resting gently on my arms. "They never did." I nod, but the past still grips me like chains, and I don't know how to break free. It starts with an alert. My phone vibrates on the kitchen counter, and I glance down, expecting another pointless email, maybe a spam text. But it's from my bank. "Fraud alert. Unusual activity detected on your account. My pulse stutters. I swipe to open the notification, my stomach tightening as I scan the transactions. A grocery store. A department store. A recurring charge to a streaming service I don't use. My mind races. Did someone steal my card? Did I forget to lock my account? I grab my laptop and log in, my fingers clumsy over the keyboard. The transactions aren't just recent, they go months back. Then I see it, a familiar grocery store, the one my parents always shop at, and suddenly, it's so obvious, I feel sick. At first, I don't want to believe it. I call the bank, my voice even, controlled, desperate to be wrong. Can you confirm where these charges were made? The rep lists the locations. I close my eyes. I know those places. My childhood grocery store, my mother's favorite boutique. I let out a slow breath, gripping the edge of the counter. It's not fraud. It's my own parents. Canceling the card is easy. It takes 2 minutes and a few clicks. The fallout comes almost immediately. My phone rings less than 5 minutes later. I don't even have to check the name. I already know. I answer, my voice sharp. Mom. A beat of silence. Then Patricia's voice, honeyed but tense. You canceled the card? I close my eyes, pressing my fingers against my forehead. Yeah, I did. A pause. How are we supposed to get groceries? My heart stops. She doesn't deny it. She doesn't act surprised. She was using me, and she wasn't even ashamed. I sit down slowly, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles turn white. You've been using my credit card? I say, my voice calm in a way that scares me. Oh, Naomi, don't be dramatic, she huffs, her voice breezy. It's just a few things here and there. You make good money. Rage surges through me. I make money for my family, my kids, not for you to steal from me. The softness vanishes. Her voice turns sharp as glass. We raised you, Naomi. You owe us. Something inside me snaps. I laugh. It's a bitter, humorless sound. I owe you? The words burn on my tongue. I owe you? For what? A childhood where I was always second to Matthew? A life spent clawing for scraps of affection that never came? For pretending I didn't notice when you ignored my kids? For never being enough? I grip the phone so hard I'm surprised it doesn't crack. My voice is ice cold when I say, I don't owe you a damn thing, and then I hang up. I stare at the phone for a long time. I expect another call, another text. But the screen stays dark. For the first time in my life, I feel nothing but fury. And I don't regret it. Not even a little. It starts with Matthew. The phone rings, his name flashing on the screen like a warning sign. I should ignore it. I should block the number and move on. But something inside me wants to hear what excuse he has this time. I answer. Naomi, he says, his voice carefully measured, like he's already decided how this conversation is going to go. Mom and Dad are struggling. I almost laugh. Struggling? They have no mortgage, no debt, no financial hardship, except for the fact that I just cut off their stolen source of income. I'm supposed to feel bad for them, I say. They're your parents. No, I correct him. They're users. He exhales sharply, as if I'm being unreasonable. They took care of you, Naomi. I don't even hesitate, and they took money from me, for years. Silence. I can tell he knew. Maybe not the full extent, but enough to look the other way. They just need a little help, he tries again. But his voice lacks conviction now. I close my eyes. I think of Ava and Theo, the kids who were never welcome at family dinners, the kids my parents never made time for. I do help people, I say finally. I help my kids, I help my husband, I help myself. That's all I owe anyone. I end the call before he can respond. The next escalation comes by mail. A thick white envelope arrives a week later. No return address. I open it at the kitchen table, my fingers already numb before I see the letterhead. Legal notice. My stomach turns. The letter is absurd, a formal demand for reimbursement for the cost of raising me, a bill for my childhood, every school supply, every meal, every medical bill, itemized and tallied. The total, over $200,000. I laugh, not because it's funny, but because it's insane. Ethan finds me there, staring at the paper, laughter spilling out in bitter gasps. They sent you an invoice for existing? He says, incredulous. I shake my head, tossing the letter aside. I guess I was an expensive disappointment. He grips my shoulders, eyes dark with anger. Tell me you're not thinking of responding. I almost want to tell them exactly where they can shove their fake lawsuit. But I won't, because this isn't about money. It never was. It's about control, and they're losing it. The final straw is the voicemails. At first, I don't listen. I see my mother's name, the count climbing from 1 to 6 to 12. Then one night, I let them play. The first one is soft, almost sweet. Naomi, honey, I know you're upset, but you'll regret this when we're gone. The second one cracks a little. We're your parents. We raised you. How could you turn your back on us? By the fourth message, the act is gone. Her voice is sharp, edged with real venom. You are selfish. You always have been. The 12th and final message is quiet. A long silence, a slow breath. Then, I hope you can live with yourself. I delete them all. No hesitation, no regret. I am finally seeing them clearly. This was never about love. It was never about family. It was about power. And I am done giving it to them. Christmas morning is quiet. For the first time in years, I wake up without an underlying sense of obligation. No forced family visits, no tension simmering beneath holiday cheer. The smell of cinnamon and cocoa drifts from the kitchen, and the sound of Ava and Theo's giggles fills the house as they unwrap presents in their pajamas. Their laughter is light, free, untouched by the weight of the past. And for a brief, fleeting moment, I feel at peace. Then my phone buzzes. I shouldn't look. I know I shouldn't, but I do. The message sits at the top of my screen, small and simple, but the words make my blood run cold. Merry Christmas. We'd love to see the grandkids. We have rights, you know. I blink once, twice. My entire body goes rigid. Grandparents' rights. They're not just guilt-tripping me anymore. They're threatening legal action. A cold, creeping fear slithers up my spine. I don't know the law. I don't know how real this is, how much power they actually have. Could they take my kids? The idea alone sends me spiraling. I picture courtrooms, custody battles, my mother standing in front of a judge, weaving some manufactured sob story about how I've kept the kids from her. I imagine lawyers, paperwork, strangers deciding if I am a good enough mother. For the first time since this started, I feel something I haven't felt in a long time. Doubt. Ethan notices. He always notices. He watches me from across the room, his hands stilling over the coffee mugs he's filling. Naomi? His voice is gentle, but I can hear the concern laced underneath. I swallow hard, then hold up my phone. He takes one look at the message, and I see his jaw tighten. An hour later, we're in a lawyer's office. The consultation is brief, cold, professional. They don't have a case, the lawyer tells me simply, flipping through a folder of documents he barely needs to look at. They're grasping at straws. You have sole custody, no history of neglect, no legal precedent. I exhale. The relief is instant, but not complete. Because I know what this is now. It's not about winning, it's about control. They don't need to win in court. They just need to make me scared enough to give in. And for a second, it almost worked. That night, the house is warm and glowing with soft string lights. The kids are still playing with their new toys, their laughter spilling down the hallway. I stare down at my phone, the message still unread. Ava's voice drifts from the living room, carefree, joyful, untouched by the weight pressing against my chest. I think about the house I grew up in, the constant tension, the exhausting, never-ending battle to be enough. And I make my decision. I lift my phone, my fingers steady as I type. Come near my family again, and I'll expose everything you've done. Try me. I hit send. Then I block the number. Just like that, it's over. And as I place my phone face down on the counter, I realize something. This is the first Christmas that truly feels like mine. The days after Christmas are quiet. For the first time in my life, I wake up without the weight of expectation pressing on my chest. No lingering guilt, no second guessing. I've shut the door, I've walked away, and I expect silence. But silence never lasts with them. The text comes just after dinner. I see Matthew's name light up my screen, and for a moment I consider ignoring it. But curiosity wins. I open the message. They're old, Naomi. They won't be around forever. Just fix this before it's too late. I exhale sharply. Not surprise, not sadness, just exhaustion. Because of course. The last, desperate card they have left to play. Guilt. I grip the phone so tightly my fingers ache. 1,000 memories crash over me at once. Matthew's birthday parties that looked like royal celebrations while mine were a quiet afterthought. Mom's teary-eyed joy when she became a grandmother, but only for his kids, the way they all expected me to keep giving. My money, my time, my love, while never offering a single ounce of it in return. And now, even after everything, Matthew still expects me to be the one to fix it. I should be furious, I should be devastated. But instead, I smile, because I finally see it clearly. I was never the problem. I was just the easiest one to blame. I swipe my screen, press the button, and block his number. Just like that, it's done. And for the first time, it feels like the door has truly closed. Not slammed in anger, not locked in fear, just closed, quiet, peaceful, final, and I'm free. At first, the quiet feels unnatural. I wake up in the morning expecting something. A message, a call, a passive-aggressive guilt trip disguised as concern. But there's nothing. No missed calls, no legal threats, no accusations. Just silence. And I don't know what to do with it. The first few days, I catch myself waiting. Every time my phone buzzes, my body tenses before I realize it's just a work email or a notification about a sale at a store I don't even shop at. Not them. They're gone. And slowly I start to understand this is what peace feels like. I take Ava and Theo to the park one afternoon, the crisp winter air biting at our cheeks as they race ahead, their laughter spilling into the open space. I watch them without distraction, no anxiety gnawing at the back of my mind, no phone in my hand, waiting for the next emotional blow. Just them. Just this moment. Ava grabs Theo's mittened hand and twirls him in circles, their giggles bursting into the cold air like music. And something inside me, something tight and fragile and worn from years of strain, finally lets go. Ethan notices it too. That night, after the kids are asleep, we sit in the quiet glow of the living room, his arm resting over the back of the couch. He studies me, his eyes soft, searching. "You seem different," he says after a moment. I tilt my head. "Different how?" His lips curve into the smallest smile. "Lighter." The word hits me in a way I don't expect. Because I am. For the first time in as long as I can remember, I'm not carrying the weight of trying to be enough. I'm not second place. I'm not obligated. I'm not theirs. I am free. Ethan leans in, presses a slow kiss to my forehead, and whispers, "You're free now." And for the first time in my life, I believe it. It happens on a quiet afternoon. The kids are at school, Ethan is at work, and the house is still. I'm cleaning out the drawers in the bedroom when my fingers brush against something, a photograph, buried beneath old papers. I pull it out slowly, already knowing what it is before I see it. An old family photo. My breath catches. It's from when I was 9 or 10. A stiff, posed portrait, Mom and Dad in the center, Matthew standing just a little closer to them than I am. I stare at my younger self, a little girl with hopeful eyes, a girl who still believed that one day she would be enough. I almost don't recognize her. A familiar ache rises in my chest, but it's different now. It's not longing, not sadness, just recognition. That girl spent her childhood chasing something that was never meant for her. Parents who treated her like a burden. A brother who always came first, a family that only loved her when it was convenient. For years, I ached for them to change. For years, I thought if I was just better, quieter, more patient, more forgiving, maybe they would love me back. But now, standing in my sunlit bedroom, holding this old, faded photograph, I finally understand. It was never about me. I exhale. For a moment, I consider throwing it away, tearing it in two, but I don't. Instead, I fold it carefully, tucking it back into the drawer. Not out of longing, not out of regret, but closure. That little girl in the photo deserved better, and now I am giving it to her. I think of Ava and Theo, their laughter, their warmth, the way they never have to question their place in my heart. They will never know this pain because I will never let them. I turn away from the drawer, from the past, from all the things that once held me in place, and I walk into the future without looking back.